Hi, my name is Heather Hogerby, and I am going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation on the equivocal death analysis used in USS Iowa. I hope you all enjoy it. To begin the presentation, I'm going to talk about autopsies and investigations. When people first consider the term autopsy, they generally think of medical autopsies. Medical autopsies are used to find the cause of death, and they're used to especially if the cause of death was uncertain. Determining the cause of death can be very useful in criminal investigations because they can determine whether the cause of death was natural or intentional. Um, while medical autopsies can be very useful for criminal investigations, the FBI uses another technique. This technique is called equivocal death analysis. This analysis attempts to look into the mental state of the deceased before they died. To do this, investigators conduct interviews with other people who knew the deceased personally. They look at their journals that they left behind and other things that could possibly provide insight into the mind of the deceased person. The present case that we're going to discuss is the USS Iowa. The USS Iowa was built in 1938 to sustain rough sea conditions. It had 3 gun turrets that are able to shoot 2,700-pound bombs. This ship was very dangerous but very useful at the time. In 1983, which was 45 years later, the ship was refurbished. 45 years changed the ship, and it was not what it once was. The recommission presented many new problems for the Navy. The ship had rusted parts, electrical circuits would short out, it had hydraulic leaks, and it had a very bulky design for today's purposes. In the chapter, it even discusses how many crew members felt unsafe while on the ship, and many can understand why they felt unsafe. On April 19, 1989, turret number 2 exploded, sending a fireball through the decks. 47 crew members were killed and many were injured. The controversy behind this explosion is whether or not this was accidental or intentional. The Navy led an investigation to find the truth behind this accident. They had a lot of people to answer to, and it was important that they find the cause. To further support their investigation, the Navy hired 2 FBI agents. The FBI agents conducted an equivocal death analysis for their investigation. The Navy's investigation concluded that the explosion was not accidental. When the FBI agents began their work, this conclusion served as the basis for their investigation. They did not attempt to determine if the investigation was accidental. They concluded that Clayton Hartwig was behind the explosion as a means for his own suicide attempt. They found through their investigation that Hartwig was depressed, he had low self-esteem, was withdrawn, he was described as a loner by his peers, and had prior suicidal thoughts. They found a poem that he wrote that discussed suicide. They also determined that he could have been upset because of Truett's rejection. The agents did not look into other evidence. They did not use other techniques of investigation, and this is partially due from the immense pressure from the Navy. After the results of the investigation were public, there was a lot of scrutiny concerning the type of investigation. Hartwig's family, Officer Truett, the media, and Congress were all skeptical of the investigation methods. Challenges were made to test the reliability and validity of the equivocal death analysis. To help determine this, the House of Armed Services cross-examined Alt and Hazelwood. They also requested help from psychologists from the American Psychology Association. After the psychologists were able to view the findings and the method, it was hard to come to a unanimous decision. The psychologists were very diverse in their opinions. Some believed that it was reasonable for Hartwig to have committed the crime, and others believed that the investigation was not valid and it was more plausible that the explosion was an accident. More psychologists were asked to analyze these expert opinions, and they decided that the equivocal death analysis should not be used in legal settings. This was the decision because there is little research to show validity and reliability in this method. In the chapter, it discusses that the FBI agents were approaching this investigation from a law enforcement perspective rather than a mental health perspective. This could have affected the outcome. Alt and Hazelwood also experienced a lot of pressure from the Navy. The Navy heavily influenced their investigation, which may have also skewed the agents' results. This case received a lot of media attention because of the negative impacts to Hartwig's family, as well as Officer Truitt's career and family. It is concerning that the FBI agents did not fully explore the alternative explanation that the explosion could have been accidental. In my opinion, it makes more sense that the explosion was an accident. It was a refurbished ship with leaks and rusty parts. It was very outdated and dangerous for the crew. The crew expressed concerns for their life while on the ship. The condition of the ship put a lot of stress on the crew. I think it is entirely plausible that something happened that was out of everyone's control. From the way it is described in the chapter, it seems like an accident waiting to happen. So my question is, should the equivocal death method be used in the courts? And the chapter says some courts have embraced it, but for the most part it's been left out of the court. I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation. I hope to see in the discussion if you guys think that the equivocal death analysis is valid or not, or if it's reliable. And if you guys think that if the investigators approached it in a different way, that maybe it could have been used in a more useful way. Or maybe you guys think that the method is only good in some situations, or maybe you guys think that it's not good at all. Whatever you think, it would be cool to see what you guys have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.